BBC Radio Kent.
Ian on the text this morning says, as the referendum was called by a Tory government, would it be ethical for a newly elected Labour government to cancel the result of it? I don't think so, but a lot of people asking a lot of questions about how our democracy works at the moment. So let's get into what's going on. As I mentioned before, the government survived just the vote of confidence. Interesting, 19 votes they won by. A lot of that was the DUP. They have avoided the threat of a general election for now, but of course some people are still saying that Theresa May will step aside. She won't. She stood in front of Downing Street last night and said, we're going to do this Brexit. I'm going to talk to the party leaders and I'm going to find out what they think. We're speaking to them on this programme as well to see how we get traction and how we move forward. In a moment we'll hear from the former Conservative Trade and Industry Secretary Peter Lilley, who campaigned to leave. But first of all, Jason Hunter is with us, a former international trade negotiator who very often on this programme, Jason, you've spoken about no deal and what that would mean. So does that mean you actually feel that Jeremy Corbyn's doing the right thing? He's saying, I'm not going to talk to you unless you take no deal off the table, because it would be catastrophic for the UK.
Finally, hey? Finally, 2.5 years late, Jeremy Corbyn enters the building. We are today where we were 2.5 years ago. There only ever has been the options of a hard cliff-edge Brexit or no Brexit at all. That's always been the case. There's not this soft Brexit that some of the Leave voters voted
Why not?
for. Well, the deal's clearly impossible because we can't get it past our parliament because they're all playing stupid party political games with our lives, literally with our lives and our jobs and our livelihoods. And households across the country will be losing their jobs and losing their livelihoods if we go forward with a no-deal Brexit.
So,
I mean, this is categorical. It's been emphasised by all of the major motor manufacturers, industry leaders, manufacturing industry, agriculture industry. Every single expert study in the world that's ever been produced says a no-deal Brexit will be catastrophic for the United Kingdom.
So, Jason, what should Theresa May do now?
She only has one option. Donald Tusk said it best yesterday. If a deal is impossible to get and no deal is too catastrophic to even think about, who has the courage in Westminster to stand up and say, well, the only option left on the table is to rescind Article 50 and remain in the European Union? If you look back at the referendum, 17.4 million people did not vote for a hard cliff-edge Brexit. 17.4 million people didn't vote for Theresa May's deal either. So the Leave vote was split. Therefore, the majority is 16.8 million people who voted to remain.
I want to find out what Peter Lilley thinks to that, listening to it. And obviously you campaign to leave, Peter. What do you reckon? Do you think that is our only option going forward?
It's not our only option. We know there is another option on the table. It was put there by President Tusk on the 7th of March, and he repeated it on the 4th of October, which is a straight free trade deal between ourselves and the European Union.
Yeah, but we can't make Peter. Sorry to talk over you, Peter.
Let him explain himself first. Go on, Peter. Carry on.
Similar to that which we had with Canada, but much easier to negotiate because we start where Canada and the European Union ended up, with zero tariffs and identical regulations. That's what we ought to revive. The stumbling block has been the Irish border. We know from what the Irish Prime Minister has said. He said he's told all his colleagues in Europe that under no circumstances will he erect a hard border, even if there's no agreement. Ditto, the President, Mr. Juncker, gave the same assurance to the Irish Parliament, and we have done too.
So, Peter, can I just ask?
An invisible border in Ireland, and that clears the way to a free trade deal between ourselves and the European Union.
Is this the deal that people call Canada Plus Plus?
Yes.
Right, OK. Now, Jason, I heard you object to that. What are your objections to Canada Plus Plus?
Well, we will eventually. Firstly, it doesn't cover 80% of our economy, which is the services sector, financial services, is not included in Canada's deal with the European Union. We will, for sure, at some point in the future, be able to negotiate our own special free trade agreement with the European Union. There's no doubt about that. I mean, Peter knows this himself. I mean, he was involved in negotiating the free trade deal with, was it Uruguay, I think, back in the day? But the problem we've got is we cannot do that until we've left the European Union, because we've faffed around for 2.5 years in the United Kingdom and Westminster. You know, we should have had the three things nailed down in the first couple of months. The protection of rights of citizens. I mean, that's fundamental to do that. Secondly, our financial obligations are set in, not in stone, but we should have been able to negotiate that within that first couple of months as well. And we should have absolutely guaranteed there will never be a border back on the island of Ireland. That should have been done in the first couple of months.
Why can't we do that now and just leave, like you say, and start those deals?
Because we've got, 72 days left before Brexit Day. and there's only about 30 sitting days in Parliament left between now and Brexit Day. There just simply is not enough time to get all the bills and acts of law through Westminster that we need to do before Brexit Day. Once we've left, then we start to see more devastation of all of our industries. Even the Leave campaigns, Jacob Rees-Mogg's crowd and the Leave group, they're looking to Patrick Minford as the leading economist to support their case. His exact words.
Jason, do you mind if I interject?
Why not argue with me rather than someone who's not here?
I want to bring Peter back in. Peter, Jason said the clock is ticking. There isn't enough time. Is he right?
The clock is ticking. That is always the case in negotiations with the European Union. They will, if we show a willingness and if we are ready in both senses of the word to leave on the 29th of March with no withdrawal agreement, then the chances are that they'll come and say, OK, let's continue to trade with zero tariffs, which we can do under WTO rules, Article 24, the day afterwards.
That's not true, though.
They may not.
That's not true. Article 24...
We've got to be prepared to leave without a withdrawal agreement. I don't know what Justin Hunter's background is. He's an international trade negotiator. He certainly wasn't working for me when I was negotiating trade deals. But if he was a businessman involved in international trade, did he ever enter into negotiations saying to the other side, I've got no alternative, I can't accept no deal, I've got to accept what you offer me? If he did, how successful was he?
Did you,
Jason?
Jason?
Any businesses that negotiate on that basis? We've got to be ready to leave on the 29th of March, and if we do, there are some advantages. First,
the problem being we're not ready.
Pounds. That is a lot of money. Second, we end uncertainty, and corrosive uncertainty going on for another 2 years, I think he would agree, is extremely damaging to the economy. Third, we would force all the parties to resolve the Northern Ireland border issue without erecting a hard border, and then we can negotiate a straight free trade.
Quick final answer to that from Jason, because the clock is ticking on our interview as well as Brexit. Go on, Jason, just quick final one then.
Peter seems to be thinking only about our trade deal with the European Union, and he's completely missing the other 60 countries around the world that we have trade deals with, thanks to our EU membership. We have to renegotiate all of those. All of those other countries will not be able to set zero tariffs on everything we sell them. That's £417 million of British-made goods, products and manufactured goods being exported out of the United Kingdom every single day. And we lose all of that. We cannot renegotiate.
Okay, so there's a lot to think about, and we are out of time now, but apologies. Really interesting stuff. Jason Hunter, former international trade negotiator, talking to, as well, Peter Lilly, the former Conservative Trade and Industry Secretary. They both know their stuff, and I don't know what to think. I've got to be honest. I don't know who's right.
We're back to the land of crass polarity.